You probably have heard already about all the slow planets sitting currently at the 4 degrees. Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune in Aries, Uranus in Gemini, and we also have Jupiter in 4 Leo. I've seen many videos, and you might have seen they have been circulating for months how important this moment will be. And, plenty of astrologers have said a lot of cool things, some not so cool. It all depends on your flavor. I'm not going to repeat. And first of all, I have 2 points here to make today. First, I have noticed that people tend to focus on what's coming and nobody's looking backwards. But looking backwards actually helps you process and adjust and understand better what is happening. We all saying, okay, this is coming. And then I don't see anybody really looking backwards and say, okay, last week, this is what happened. And you know what, this month, I didn't expect it that way. This is where the real distillation of information, because the cycles are cycles. They're very non-controversial when you strip them from the interpretation. You have a beginning, you have an end, but the real question is what is happening. And so sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't. And there's that wild card that those cycles are mental. They're about they happen in our psyche and they actually correlate with things. But for someone who is more advanced in their spiritual journey, that correlation is going to happen with something inside your head. You'll have a realization, or you'll wake up as like, oh my goodness, I don't have to say no. I don't have to say yes when I want to say no to people. Or, oh wow, this is a boundary issue. You see what I'm trying to say? It's about your internal world. For some people who are in an earlier stage in their spiritual development, or practically no spiritual development, all those insights will actually be projected onto the external world. And that's something for the psychologists to go and tell us. There are plenty of studies there about how if you don't accept something on a subconscious level, you tend to kind of dissociate and push it away and project it. There comes the psychological terms. So, and this is why the wild card is, we don't know what is going to be. Well, we know that something is happening because we can see the cycles. Having Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, Jupiter all around the 4 degree, obviously this is not an event that happens every year. It doesn't happen every 10 years. In fact, it might even take thousands of years to see the same configuration. And all the more, none of us was alive to know what happened last time when they were like that. So we can actually see the cycle, but I don't think it is possible unless you're psychic or have some psychic abilities. It is not possible to look at someone, and even I think I have seen some psychics who are very good, and they have integrity to a point where they don't want to say it, because who are you to tell the person that, oh, it's gonna play out in your external life, that you're not developed enough, and you're not gonna go and say, oh, I'm gonna play it out in my head, right? So there's an option, there's that aspect of, we want to empower people, we don't want to pigeonhole them. There are some probabilities that someone is gonna project it and it's gonna be a banana peel that you miss and you slip on it. Someone else is more likely probably to sit in quietude in their bedroom and create a new intention for their life. That is something between you and your creator. But astrology is very handy. And the second point I wanted to make today was that nobody also talks about the timelines. These 4 planets move slowly. Jupiter moves 12 years. It takes 12 years for Jupiter to go and circle, so it is the fastest of the 4. But take, for instance, Pluto. Pluto can take 248 to 50 years to circle around. Uranus is 84. And so because they actually move so slow, all this shrieking about how essential it is that in one day they will be precisely at 4, all of them, does not have any practical implications for your personal life. maybe planetary, yes, but for you, I bet you have been feeling that you already have been feeling this coalescing of those planets for months, and you'll be feeling them for years, because when they come together, it's not a one thing and done and be over and get over it. It is more like a door opens, or someone knocks on your door. Some people might not hear the knock, other people might hear it and refuse to open. And yet another group will decide that yes, they want to open that door. But once you open the door, there is no closing back. So this is gonna stay with for the rest of your life if you choose to be the third group and open the door and say, okay, I invite the universe, I invite my creator, my guides into this party. I'm open to see what this degrees, all these planets in the 4 degrees. Which brings me to a very practical point again. If you don't have planets or angles or sensitive points around 4 degrees in any sign, you might be one of those people who are not going to hear the knock so much. It's something about better or worse. It is what it is. You will hear other knocks when they happen in around the 6 degree of some angle, or when the new moon are gonna happen around the mid degrees, or 20 degrees or 23 degrees. In the next 2 months, we're gonna have new moons there. Or you're gonna be hearing the knock of the full moons, which will be hitting at the beginning of the energies. So we're gonna have Leo and then Virgo, and they're gonna be all towards the beginning. So you get my point. Your chart is sensitive to specific degrees, and so you might hear it, you might not. But if you have planets or angles, let's say at the 4 degrees, most likely you'll be hearing the knock, which again brings me to the point, it's up to you if you open the door. Although, you know what, to be honest, when it comes to Pluto, when Pluto comes knocking the Plutonian cycle, I don't think you have an option to not open the door. I don't think you have options with any of those big ones. I mean, it's the question really is, are you going to go and accept the changes and open the door graciously, or are you going to hide under the bed until they just bang on the door so much that they actually break it? That's really the choice for you, metaphorically speaking. But then you can say, okay, so if all of them have been already building up so slowly, why are we so focusing on July 17 or July 18 or 19 or whatever the date was for the exact 4 match or resonance or lock-in of those 4 planets? Well, it kind of gives us an anchor, because once you kind of zero in on that date, then you say, okay, I can expect something to happen building 3 months before that, and then probably for the years after that. So it is good as an anchor, but keep in mind that I don't think anything is going to happen on that specific day. Which brings me to my final point for today. In my experience, the moon is that last straw that breaks the proverbial camel's back. The moon is the queen of manifestation. Somehow the moon is the symbol that correlates to things need to kind of connect with the physical before they can actually start unfolding. Before that, they exist in the higher realms of frequency and mental energy and thought and ideas. So in order to really pop in, think about, you plant seeds around the moon cycle. So this is something like that, an effect of maybe as above so below, but it happens with everything in life. So for things to precipitate to physical events, even for you, if you say, well, if it happens in my mind, even then there's an element of the moon, because the moon guides our emotions. It guides the universal waters in a metaphorical sense that need to nourish, provide that environment to nourish a seed into a plant, into a manifestation. So in my experience, actually, even if you're sensitive to the 4 degrees, Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, Jupiter, and I am, because my own Pluto is in 4 Libra, and that's actually a generational position. So anybody who was born in the early 1970s, like me, is going to have that position there and be sensitive. But the thing is, everything is in place. And now we're waiting for the moon. So from now on, this month, next month, the next month, I'm going to be watching the moon, because the moon is going to be clicking. Like last month, it clicked for Virgo and it connected with the planets. Even though Virgo is not part of this configuration, it doesn't matter. Today, for instance, the moon was in for Libra, which actually connects very strongly with the configuration, because first my natal Pluto is there, but also now it will be trine the Pluto in Aquarius, opposite Neptune in Aries, trine Uranus in Gemini, sextile the Jupiter in Leo. So you see, this, you have to watch for those repetitions, you know, that reinforced. It's like the moon passes, it's like, okay, I'm watching for myself. I cannot tell you for you, because I have to look at your chart, right? Or better, you can go and look at your chart and keep an eye on it and look for those sensitive spots. Do you have anything in 4? Then watch out for the days when the moon passes, because that is when the last straw, right, the trigger. It could be a week, it could be a month before you actually feel it strongly, finally pops up on your radar. I've been tracking my moon for years, and I've been talking already so much about that moon. I like when the moon is in Libra, like today. It makes me, it's the Libra is my ascending sign, so it makes me much more comfortable in my skin, you know, hit the ground, get all my to-do list completed. I like also when moon is in Virgo, so I was like last week, 2-3 days ago actually. It makes me, Virgo is my 12th sign, so it makes me much more open to insights and spiritual insights. I had some really cool experiences this past weekend, about which I'm not ready to talk yet, but it's coming. You know, once I process what happened with those very intuitive insights, I'm gonna come back and create more videos. And again, if you want something like a middle ground, you can sign up for my newsletter, because I actually do this for my readers every week. I will just give you a map of, or a forecast of where the moon is for the week, so you can actually see the shifts from day to day, and that kind of gives you heads up of what to watch for. Certainly that's what I do for myself, and that's how the letter started. I just offered it for everybody else who wants to see how I track the moon and what happens when you actually start tracking the moon.